What's up guys, I am here at Mumbai in India, Chhatrapati International Airport International Terminal, and today I am flying with Singapore Airlines in business class on board a Boeing 777-300 over to Singapore. I'm really looking forward to this flight. I've flown with Singapore loads of times before, but only ever in economy, so I'm looking forward to seeing what their world-class business class product is like. This is the first leg of a flight across to Los Angeles. That video will be coming separately. But for now, let's head across to Singapore with Singapore Airlines on the Boeing 777. Once through your ID check and into the terminal, there's a dedicated first class and business class check-in area here at Mumbai. Lovely, thank you very much. Alright, thanks very much then, bye-bye. Check-in complete, and there's even a dedicated business class security checkpoint, which compared to other checkpoints I had in India on this trip was really good. After security, it was through to passport check, and my passport was stamped and I was officially leaving India. Singapore Airlines use the GVK lounge here at Mumbai Airport. I have to say, this is one of the fanciest lounges that I've ever been into. I mean, just look at the lavishness of this place as you walk into it.
Have a good time, sir.
Thanks very much. Cheers, thank you. On entering the lounge, I was treated to this absolutely magnificent sunset.
With the Wi-Fi as well?
Showered and freshened up, this really kind lady couldn't do enough for me. She was bringing me wine as much as I wanted, even setting up my phone on the Wi-Fi when I couldn't get it to work. This really is fantastic service. Thank you, bye-bye. Relaxed in the lounge, I headed down to the gate where my flight to Singapore was getting ready for boarding. And here is my ride over to Singapore this evening. It's a 17-year-old Boeing 777-300 non-ER variant, originally delivered back to Singapore Airlines in October 2002. It's one of the oldest aircraft in Singapore Airlines fleet. And like the other non-ER variants that Singapore Airlines have, they typically use them on these high-density routes around Asia. Hello. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. After being welcomed on board by the typically friendly Singapore Airlines flight attendants, I made my way through the first class cabin into business class that was just behind it.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very good, sir. Thank you.
Business class on these old 777-300s is pretty dated, I have to say, but it still is a really comfortable product. On sitting at my seat there was a pair of socks, a pair of slippers and an eye mask. Singapore Airlines don't offer any amenity kits in business class, even on their really long routes. Hot towels and drinks were brought around just before we pushed back from the gate. It was soon time to get on our way, and we taxied out to the runway here at Mumbai to begin our flight over to Singapore. As we leave India behind, let's take a quick look at our route over to Singapore. We flew directly over the south of India towards Chennai before crossing the Bay of Bengal towards Banda Aceh in Indonesia, down the Strait of Malacca, off the coast of Malaysia, into Singapore. Flight time today 4 hours and 54 minutes at a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. Whilst pretty dated, the seat here is pretty comfortable. The controls are down here on the left hand side of the seat underneath the armrest. There's a remote control for the quite dated IFE system, I have to say. I'll show you more about that in a little while. I really do like these little lockable drawers that you have seated right in front of you. They can hold quite a lot of stuff, and you can lock them so that nothing falls out. There's a coat hook just to the left of the screen, and to the right of the screen you've got all your literature up at the top, and a couple of bottles of water for you and the passenger next to you at the side of you. And then between the seats there's more storage. You have the life jackets at the bottom and a couple of little cubby holes for you to put your stuff in. There's a drinks holder on the right hand side as well as this table that pops out. I would describe this table as more functional than stylish, but hey, it does the job. Down the side of the seat there's a little storage pouch which they reckon you can put a laptop in, but I don't think I'd probably risk putting my laptop down there. There's a headphone socket and a little light at the side of you, and there's also a little privacy divider which I didn't notice until the end of the flight. But this slides right the way out, giving you quite a lot of privacy from the passenger at the side of you. Of course the seat goes fully into the lie flat position, which I'll show you a little bit later on in the flight. I'd pre-ordered my dinner tonight using Singapore Airlines Book the Cook service. This is a fantastic service. If you're ever flying in Singapore Airlines business class, you can go online and reserve any meal from a choice of dozens ahead of your flight. Singapore Airlines make sure that meal is loaded on board and you can get whichever meal you like. Shortly after takeoff, the cabin crew brought round a glass of wine and some nuts as we sat and cruised over southern India. For a starter there was a little salad dish, which was pretty tasty. Using the Book the Cook service for tonight's flight, I've reserved a Ruchi Thali non-vegetarian meal for my supper. This is a medley of Indian dishes that was actually really nice. It even came with a steaming hot naan bread, which was really nice to have at this time of night. Before I hit the hay on tonight's flight, I'll give you a quick overview of the in-flight entertainment system. This is a pretty dated system that uses a little remote at the side of you. To show how old this is, I flew in 2006 with Singapore Airlines, and this is exactly the same in-flight entertainment system that they had back then. To be honest though, for a flight of just 4.5 hours long, it wasn't really the end of the world. I didn't really intend to watch many movies tonight, it was just a case of getting sleep. There was a throwback to the 1990s in the form of a handheld telephone at the side of the seat. Has anybody ever used one of these? I put the bed into its lie flat position and decided to get my head down for a few hours sleep ahead of my arrival into Singapore. When I woke up, we were just off the coast of Malaysia, heading down the Straits of Malacca towards Singapore. I don't think I've ever flown into Singapore and not seen a fantastic thunderstorm outside the window as we make our approach. Today was no exception. I sat watching the lightning storm out of the window. I grabbed a cup of rooibos tea before we'd landed into Singapore, as on my time zone it was late at night and on my next flight I just intended to sleep. As the sun rose in the east, it was time to commence our approach and landing down into Singapore Changi International Airport. My flight from Mumbai to Singapore this evening was part of a longer itinerary to Los Angeles that I booked during a really good sale that Singapore Airlines had, and broken down it worked out at £277.02 or $351 for a flight of 2,431 miles. This works out at a really good price of 11 pence per mile. In true Singapore fashion, the windows of the plane steamed up just after we'd landed. Thank you, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Overall, I found Singapore Airlines business class to be fairly decent on this short flight. The aircraft is showing its age, however, but nonetheless, it's still fairly comfortable for a 4-hour run. These non-ER 777-300s are really old now though, and they'll soon be replaced by A350-900s and 787-10s, which will be a great upgrade on these flights from the Indian subcontinent. What do you think to Singapore's 777-300? Let me know down in the comments. In the meantime, thanks for watching and see you next time here on In-Flight Video.